the Chiefs respond with the big hits of their own.
Now,
Good Chiefs support at the stadium today.
let's go! News, views, and behind-the-scenes chats from Sandy Park. This is the Exeter Chiefs podcast with Rhino and Bentos.
We're back for another one. Last week we had Jack, and you've pulled it off again.
Wait, we got another England international. It's just how I roll, you know. I'm there with the boys. Another one. Nice nickname. He's Jono to me, Tom Johnson to you, Sir to most people. To me, in fact, Sir Tom Johnson.
TJ, welcome to the studio.
Welcome, TJ.
Thank you very much, boys. Appreciate the welcome.
Tom, testimonial year. Let's talk about that first before we delve into your career and talk about England and stuff. What's happening?
The club have fortunately given me, well, I'm very fortunate to accept sort of 10 years at the club, and they've given me a few events to help celebrate it. And actually kicks off next Wednesday, week Wednesday, 31st, with a quiz night up at Sandy Park. Followed by the Great Gatsby themed evening, which is a dinner and dancing with Joe and the Lips on November the 18th, and then the flagship event, which is the Cathedral on the 3rd of February.
And that's special.
That's going to be something that hasn't been done before. We've got a gala dinner and music at the Cathedral, which is very sort of an un-rugby type style dinner. So that should be good fun. And then we finish it off with a great golf day at Woodbury Park. So all in all, some great events, really.
Chris, can you just explain for people who aren't so au fait, what is a testimonial year, and why is it special, and what does it mean?
Testimonial is very special. It means you've been at a club for 10 years. And you've been pretty much a solid servant, and Jono's been there right from the off. I mean, the hashtag the originals. Jono is one of the originals. He took the club into the Premiership, established us in the Premiership, pushed us through the Premiership. Trailblazer, the first chief of the current generation to play for England. And it's difficult to be such a sycophant when he stood right next to me, and we've got to be close to this microphone. But it's a pretty impressive CV, and it's only just and right that the club should reward him. You know, we go through and we have little things that guys get if they get a certain number of games. Their name plaque goes from black to bronze, and bronze to silver, silver to gold if you've played enough games. And
where are those name plaques today at the club?
They're above your changing room when you get changed.
Oh, okay.
And then
it's a nice little thing. So when you look around, you can see the players that have been there sort of the longest, or have so many caps. And especially for new guys coming in, that's what they aspire to be. They want to get their names changed from like Chris said, from white to eventually gold.
And then when you go through it, you look at that. That's great that you get that. But then the next generation is the guys that have actually done 10 years solid service at the club. And in my lifetime at the club, I've only known 2 other testimonials, and I've been involved for 12 years. So it's a pretty special thing. And I think Jono, he's very humble, and I've got to blow his trumpet for him at times, and I mean that in the literal sense. Sorry, some people might giggle at that one. He's a very special player. I remember doing pre-season with him down at Lympstone Marine Camp, and 4 years on the bounce, he won the most Marine-like rugby player. He's top boy.
Yeah, but that's in the blood, though, because isn't your dad RAF?
Yeah, Dad's RAF, my brother's Army Commando, so he's done all that down at Lympstone. And it was something I was very close to going into before Coventry gave me an option.
There's a quiz night next Wednesday, which is the 31st. There's still tickets available for that one, possibly. And we've got Carl Rimmer and Kai Horseman leading teams, is it?
Kai Horseman and Damien Welsh are comparing it. We've got Hayden doing the quiz master. Carl Rimmer is the captain for the 2 teams that have been put in for the Chiefs, so it's a case of pitting your wits against them. And there's a Q&A for a special lineup of Jeff Parling, Gareth Steenson and Sam Skinner, and that should be a bit of fun. We might have a little bit of mastermind and some fun games with them. And
I've seen some of the quiz questions Hayden Thomas has put together. You will have a laugh. So if you want a really good fun night with the Chiefs, get down to that quiz night. Next event is obviously Joey and the Lips, Dance the Night Away, Great Gatsby. Is that fancy dress as well? What's the attire for that one?
It is. It's fancy dress, but it's essentially black tie, but the hats and the frills will be provided. But it's a Gatsby themed evening.
And Joey and the Lips, good band. I think we're going plug-tastic here, and I think it's worthwhile. I've sort of given you the reason why we've got to go plug-tastic, and then finally, the Cathedral. I mean, they don't open the doors for anybody, but Sir Tom Johnson, they've opened the doors. Yeah,
fortunately we've got a really good committee, and 1 or 2 of them managed to pull some strings, and we've got a music extravaganza lined up. So we're not gonna say what music's going on, because hopefully it's going to be a massive surprise. But dinner in the Cathedral is a fantastic venue, and should really sort of blow people's socks off.
It's really special. It must kind of help reinforce the amazing achievement that you've had as a Chiefs player and as a rugby player. If we're okay to move on to career now, Chris.
One final thing, if you want to check it out, it's tjtestimonial.co.uk.
That's correct.
There you go. It's always good to give the web link. Plugtastic. I'll unplug it now. It's done. Let's go back to a line of questioning.
He's acting like a producer today. He's normally all over the place.
I'm just piling in here, see. Sorry, I have to do this.
So, Tom, does this help reinforce the amazing achievement that you've had as a player for the club and as a rugby player then?
Yeah, very much so. And it's also nice. It's also nice to for the fans to hopefully get behind me and be able to show my appreciation by putting on a few events for them that they'll enjoy as well. Because I'm very proud to have done 10 seasons at the Chiefs. And achieve some remarkable things which I didn't thought I'd do when I set out playing rugby, for sure. So to be here, sort of trying to plug my testimonial and just advertise it is just it feels good, and yeah, I'm very proud of what I've done.
And talking about the career then, so it's over 180 appearances for the Chiefs, and sort of accolades, I guess, are LV Cup, A-League, getting into the Premiership. 8 caps for England. I mean, the list goes on. Caps for Saxons. I mean, that's really, really impressive. Again, he's right. You're really humble.
Yeah, it is good. And it's just managed to take it sort of in my stride and doing one thing at a time. And when I remember playing for Coventry down at the county ground at Exeter's last game there.
Yeah, Bentley scored a try then.
Playing against Chris, and then the following season playing the first game for Coventry against Exeter. So there's always been sort of a relationship there, and then to come down and join the great club, it was great, and everything's taken off from there.
Can you remember how Rob brought you into the club? Was it Rob that was coaching? Was it Pete Druitt? Because I mean, it's a long time ago now, county ground.
It was Rob and Pete together. I remember us coming down and taking a tour of the facilities, and it was fantastic. And then and Rob set me down and goes, "Well, I've had a look at your game. I know you can run around a little bit, but I really want to work on your tight stuff." And sort of said yes to that, and I was like a nodding dog, and then came down and then learnt the Exeter way of the eight man rolling maul, and the sort of 2 pods of 4 running around the corners. So it was a bit of a culture shock from what I'd been used to.
So I need to check my pronunciation on this. You started your career, was it Chinner?
Yes.
When looking back, was it always a goal to eventually run out for England? Because the gap between there and running out at Twickenham is admittedly huge. Was there a plan written down? Did you have a strategy?
No, I was just I think I did a year and a half or so at Chinner, or nearly 2 seasons at Chinner, and then I went to Reading, and I was actually I was about to join up with the parachute regiment. And go and do the officer training there. But going back to Chinner, it was Dave Seymour. I used to play 6, and me and Dave Seymour used to play 6 and 7, who's now the Sale Sharps captain, and he'd gone off into the Saracens Academy. And I thought to myself, well, I'm not that much worse than him. So there was always an inner drive that I wanted, that if he could do it, there's a chance that I could do it. And moving to Reading gave me an opportunity to be more in the limelight, playing at National 3, and then Coventry came.
Let's talk a little bit about England. Tell us how that felt and what that experience was like, getting the call, obviously going through Saxons and then being called for England.
Well, we're just bypassing the Saxons. We're going straight to the England call. Is that
I'm
what
not trying to undermine that at all.
He's become like he's a glory hound now. He doesn't care about the roots. No, he's just, we got through that club rugby. Now let's talk about the top end of it. Rhino, you're savage.
Be quiet. You're always off mic anyway. So, Tom, talk about Saxons, talk about England. How did that feel, and how did that transition come?
The Saxons was a massive part for me, because we'd had a really good. We'd come up from the Championship, and everyone expected us to go down, and we won the first game against Gloucester, and then we kept winning and picking up points, and we were never in a relegation fight, and it was brilliant. I think we finished 8th that season, which was a fantastic result for the club. And I'd gone reasonably well, and to just to be named in the Saxons squad that was touring. It was touring the UK actually in the Churchill Cup, and played for the Barbarians against the Barbarians that summer. But the following year, it had a decent year, but Lancaster by then now had been in charge, who was in charge of the Saxons, and he'd taken over the head role at England. And I played again in the England 15 versus the Barbarians, hoping to go on tour with England, but not really thinking too much of it. And then I got the call to say I was, and then I had a good game against the Barbarians. And next thing I know, I'm out in Durban, and we're sort of training on a Tuesday morning. They said, we're going to start you this weekend. And I was just like, okay, right. How do I deal with that? And it was fantastic. Jeff Parling was, funnily enough, out there with me, and in the change room before the game, he said to Graham Rowntree, the forwards coach, he said, "Look, you need to go and have a word with Tom, because he is absolutely bricking himself." And I didn't realise I was, but obviously I must have been for Jeff to say that. And he had a little chat with me, and then actually the game went reasonably well.
And as someone who's never been involved in that, what's it like being away with the team? What sort of things are going on? Is it lots of training, or is it quite a chilled vibe? What happens when you're away?
By this stage, the boys are all conditioned because they've had a hard, long season. So it's very much a case of getting the organisation right, going from club rugby to country, getting the calls right. For example, there's a lot of time spent in the physio rooms and doing rehab. And there's also a little bit of gym and conditioning, but there is a fair bit of time in between games, and especially the way we run it at the Chiefs, we generally train Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, day off Thursday, Friday team run, play Saturday. For England, they'll train Monday, Tuesday hard, have their big contact session on Tuesday, have Wednesday off, and then there's quite a hard session on the Thursday before the team run on the Friday. So just getting my head round the different format for that was. I actually found it quite refreshing and quite enjoyed it. But it's a great environment to be in, and they're taken out for meals regularly, and there's lots of activities put on because they don't want the boys sat around the hotel getting bored, because that's when boys get into mischief.
And you started at Chinner, it's happened, and you're there. You're suddenly on this England tour. What's the interaction like with the family? When you've been given this nod, you're in Durban, you're going to start this test, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, is there a phone call home, or are you just, I need this, just keep this under my hat? Where'd you go? Because it's things like that I find fascinating. Before
the tour, I was meant to be going to Italy to be best man for my best friend, and got the call to say I was going on tour. I had to come off the stag do, which is in Vegas, which I was a bit disappointed about. And then I rang him first. I think I said, "Look, I'm sorry I can't be at the wedding, but
it was worth it.
It's actually worth it. It's actually worth it because I'm starting against the Springbok on Saturday. But I sent them a video message of it, me in the hotel room with the England kit, saying sorry can't be there, which got played over at the wedding, which was a lovely touch. And he said it was sort of very heartwarming and humbling that I'd bother to even just say those few words.
Did you think about being a soccer player? What was his name?
Leo Eccles.
Do you think about like having a T-shirt? This is for you, Leo. So if you scored a try over the shirt, running around the pitch.
I can honestly say that never crossed my mind.
That's why he's an England international, and I'm nowhere near.
That was why they didn't call Bentos. Nothing to do with the playing.
But I did have to get. But I did also speak to my folks, and Stuart Lancaster had also rung them to tell them. So they sent some kind words, and then my dad hadn't been that well, but. My parents hadn't been that well, and they couldn't face the travel. But my dad did, and came down there and met one of my school friends that happened to be working out in Johannesburg, and they watched the game together. So it was great to have my dad by my side in the stand for the game.
And what would you say, talking more about Chiefs, have been the big kind of highlights for you in the last 10 years?
Obviously, the promotion. That was probably the biggest highlight, and then. Staying up that first year was tough. The pressure that we put on ourselves, but also how the team had changed from playing Championship rugby the first year to a completely different brand of rugby. I think Chris will back me up here. And we we went from a very tight championship team to playing expansive rugby and really sort of throwing the ball around. It was a completely different Chiefs team that I'd come into, and one that we knew, the coaches knew that was the only way to play, to stay up, and that's what we did.
Broke my heart. We were all about massive forwards in the championship. Premiership, you had to be rapiers. I cheered him from the sidelines. Go Hercules! Go Hercules!
So how did Rob deliver that message, Rob, and the coaches? Is it a kind of, right, guys, this is a change of strategy, or was it drip fed through to you? How did that happen?
It was a case of literally, because the way the championship worked, I think we finished playing last. I think we must have had a 4 or 5 week, well, not even that, maybe a 4 week off season before we were back in. So the coaches, we just started playing these little anaerobic games, which essentially touch rugby, but we're very hot on our basic skills, sort of our rucking and passing. That's always been sort of hammered into us, and then we just played at this furious pace during training, and we carried on playing like that.
It was a mantra. We're going to chuck down a gauntlet, and we'll give everything we can, and if after 80 minutes you've beaten us, well done you, but our effort's going to be through the roof, and let's control everything we can. Let's be as fit as we can be, let's get our food as good as we can be, and if we put our video analysis in and we do everything as well as we can, at the end of the game the supporters will have bought into us for the effort. We'll have done everything we can, control what we can, and that's what the mantra was, and the guys just got better and better. And from my perspective, I played 2 seasons as part of that squad. I didn't play a huge amount, but then when I retired, we signed Dean Mumm, 33 caps for Australia. So we had a work ethic and a critical mass pulling in a direction, and as players left, we signed much better players who bought into that. And what we see now is a squad of 14 international rugby players, all vying with the same mentality, the siege mentality we had when we first came up.
So where does the club go from here, do you think, Tom, this season? What do you reckon the opportunities are?
Obviously, getting through to the Premiership final, everyone's thinking, right, we need to go one better, and obviously you do, but you don't get there by saying that's what we're going to do. You get there.
Why not?
Because you start taking your mind off actually what got you there in the first place. The first thing we need to do is turn up a week Sunday against Wasps and put a really good account for ourselves. We know they're a very, very good team, and we need to hit the ground running and start picking up points in the first block of games, as many as we can. That's what we did last year, and that's what kept us in the top 2 for the majority of the year.
If you're going to climb Everest, you don't look at the peak. You look at base camp, you look at second camp, you look at third camp, and you work your way to the top. I
love all these things that you come out with. Is this Tom? Tom, is this just him, or is this the way it is in a rugby world? Because everything's about.
This is Chris.
Oh, okay.
This is not a normal rugby player or ex-rugby player, whatever.
Because he's full of it.
Love it, mate. Love it.
This is the Exeter Chiefs podcast.
Those first few years in the Premiership, you were part of a synonymous back row, Skaysbrook, Baxter, Johnson, which was pretty much the first 3 names on a team sheet. And you would have seen everybody in the Premiership. Was there any sort of themes that you picked in those first few years playing week in, week out?
I think one thing we definitely learnt was, and the coaches picked up on it, where we'd play our sort of strongest 15 or 23 every week because we wanted to pick up as many points as we possibly could. It wasn't a case of targeting certain teams that were coming down and then, say, against the top 2 or 3 teams, you put out a weaker team to rest the other guys. It wasn't a case of that. It was everybody is going to go at this at 100%, and we're going to feel as close to the starting 15 as possible.
And did you find it peculiar? Teams always used to say we're going to go after Exeter. It was like there was a sort of a lack of respect. Do you think that galvanised the team to an extent, that it was a fait accompli? We were going to get beat, we were going to lose, and we were going to get relegated. Was that a motivating factor amongst the squad? Yeah,
I think whatever sport it is, if people are sort of downplaying you, I think it must be music to Rob's ears. It's just a team speech written for you, and we didn't need much motivation. We knew sort of jobs and mortgages were on the line, and when you're playing for that, it does make you go a bit further.
Chris, do you want to do your traditional quick fire?
I'll throw a few in. I haven't thought about these. Best roommate?
Thomas Hayes.
Worst roommate?
Ben White.
Most memorable game?
First test against South Africa.
Would you rather have a night out with the lads or a night in with the missus?
Night out with the lads.
Oh, Jess, I'm going to be happy with that one. Proudest moment on a rugby field? Quick fire.
When we beat Gloucester at home, first game.
And testimonial. Let's just cover that back off again. So, various events coming up, and we can go onto the website. It's tjtestimonial.com or
.co.uk, tjtestimonial.co.uk, and you should be able to find all the events and book whichever ones you fancy on there.
I think the great thing is it goes from the quiz night next Wednesday, which is pretty cheap and cheerful, get yourself along, to the very top end gala dinner, which
there's a nice pie and pint involved in the quiz.
And you get to see the Chiefs. You get to see a team that's going to be there or thereabouts come the end of the year, which is pretty special.
Cool, Tom, thank you ever so much for coming in. It's been great to talk to you.
Thanks very much for having me, guys.
Super Bowl!
Cheers, lads.
Your behind-the-scenes access to Sandy Park with Rhino and Bentos. The Exeter Chiefs podcast.